Today is a special day. If you've been following the government policies the last 6 years, today warrants to be one of the special days, and that is what we're going to talk about. What is the greatest achievement of the Modi government? If I were to ask you for one answer, what would you call the biggest achievement of the Modi government? The biggest original idea that was instrumental in transforming lives across the country. What was that one idea? Now, it's a very subjective question, of course. You could say it's the LPG scheme. It could say Ayushman Bharat, the health cover for almost 50 crore people, a 5 lakh cover for every family annually. That could be the biggest success of the Modi government for some. And there are so many schemes one can talk about. One can talk about the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. One can talk about the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan package, which was launched amidst the coronavirus outbreak. But today I'll go back in time and I'll talk about the greatest achievement in my understanding of the Modi government, that one achievement which was enabler for all other achievements that followed. 15th August 2014, after 10 years of the UPA era, the country is seeing a new prime minister addressing the nation from the Red Fort. 15th August 2014. It's a new energy, it's a new hope, it's a new dawn for India. And what does the prime minister talk about? He talks about financial inclusion. He talks about the idea of taking a bank account to every home in India. It's just no longer about taking a bank to every village or to every district. It's taking a bank account to every family. Of course, the critics, as they must have been just after the elections, they were skeptical. They did not believe the Modi government. On 28th August 2014, 6 years ago today, the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Yojana is conceptualized. And this is where a historic journey begins. And this is what we're going to talk about today. I'll classify my discussion into broad aspects. Firstly, I just want to talk about the numbers. I just want to talk about the crazy numbers the Pradhan Mantri Dhan Yojana has able to garner. For firstly, it has 40.35 crore beneficiaries. 40.35 crore beneficiaries. That's almost one third of India's population. That's more than the population of the entire United States. So think of this. After the Modi government came into power, in the 6 years, they have been able to have a bank account for more than the total number of people in the United States. Total number of people. That's a huge number. That's a staggering number. 40.35 crore people. Now, even if you wildly assume that 80 crore people are living in rural India, every household by this number, on an average, every second person in rural India has a bank account. Thus, meaning that every family in rural India, on an average, has a bank account. 40.35 crore. That's not all. The total amount in the entire Jan Dhan bank accounts, because a lot of Congress leaders, I remember the 2014-15 time, they called this entire Jan Dhan Yojana a big PR stunt, because their idea was that who would want to keep their money who in the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts? The poor people do not have money to keep in the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts. That was their argument at that time. Today, rupees 1.31 lakh crore lies in these Jan Dhan accounts, in these 40.35 crore Jan Dhan accounts. Here's some more numbers. 63.3% of the accounts, 63.6% of the accounts rather, they are from the rural areas. So of the accounts that have been opened, 40 crore accounts that have been opened, 65%, almost 65% of the accounts are from rural areas. 55% of the accounts are belonging to women. So this is a very important number. It's not just about financial inclusion. It's financial inclusion while taking the gender gap into account. 55% of the accounts are for women. So almost more than 22 crore women have a Jan Dhan account in India. That's almost 1/6 of the population of India. That's a huge number again. Another number that interests me, that amidst the coronavirus outbreak that break in, a lot of poor people needed aid and they needed it very fast. Under the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana, a total of rupees 30,700 crore rupees has been credited to the bank accounts of women. That's been another achievement of the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana. And lastly, around 8 crore beneficiaries of the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts, they receive some sort of a monetary support every month under various schemes. 8 crore. That's more than the population of a lot of countries in the world, most countries in the world. So look at these numbers. Look at these staggering numbers the Jan Dhan Yojana has able to manage. If the only beneficiaries of Jan Dhan Yojana were to make a country, it would probably be the sixth or the seventh largest country in the world. In the last 6 years, the Modi government has given a bank account to more people, to 40 crore people, 400 million people. That's a big, big number. And this must be celebrated. Today, after 6 years, this number warrants a certain celebration. But those were just the numbers. Now let's come to the features. Were they just bank accounts just given for the heck of it? Was there just banks opening the bank accounts only for the heck of it without any care or concern for the sustainability? No. And this brings me to the second aspect, the features. There was universal access to banking service, basic savings account, financial literacy program, which enabled the growth of financial inclusion of this entire scheme. That was very important because a lot of people in 2014, especially in the rural areas, especially women, they were not very aware of the idea of bank accounts, how to go about them. But with Aadhaar and mobile, especially after the Geo revolution in 2016, the prominence, the significance, the importance of Jan Dhan Yojana accounts have just increased. There was also the offer of accidental cover insurance. There was also the option of life cover for the early beneficiaries, the one who got the Jan Dhan accounts in 2014-15 itself. There was also the simplified KYC norms because a lot of people in the rural areas, they lack the basic documents, and therefore there were simplified KYC rules for these accounts to be opened along with a number of features. So of the holy trinity I keep talking about, the Jan Dhan, Aadhaar and mobile, Jan Dhan was the pillar which became the enabler of everything there was. Now let's come to the third aspect, how it progressed. 6 years later, looking at the numbers, it might come across as very simple rather, but we want to track the progress of how Jan Dhan Yojana progressed bit by bit, year by year. I'll put some charts on the screen for you to see. Firstly, the accounts in crore. This is a figure in crore. In August 15, there were just 18 crore accounts. Close to 18 crore accounts had been opened in August itself. This is a huge number. In the first year only, 18 crore accounts came into being. By August 2016, the number had increased to 24 crore, which was another 50% increase over a year. Then, by August 2017, 31 crore. August 2019, the number had increased to 36 crores, and finally today in August 2020 it stands at more than 40 crore. The deposits under the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts, they've also increased significantly. In August 2015 there was some 229,000 crore rupees in these accounts. By August 2017 it increased to close to rupees 66,000 crores, the deposits. By August 2019 the deposit had increased to more than 1 lakh crore, and today they stand at 1.3 lakh crore. These are the total deposit in rupees in the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts. So the Congress people who thought that these accounts would be a waste of space, a waste of efforts, look at these staggering numbers. Now, we also need to look at the deposits per account on an average, deposits per account, because it's easy to say that the numbers in the total deposits have increased, but what is the per average? What is the deposit per account? In August 2015, it was close to rupees 1200, 1300 rupees. It was fairly less. By August 2017, it increased to 2200 rupees per account. That's an average I'm taking. By August 2019, the number increased to rupees 2800. Today, August 2020, it's more than rupees 3200. That's one very significant progress of the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts, because if the program had been a failure or had attained a certain stagnation, the average amount per account would have decreased. The accounts may have increased, but the average amount in each account would have decreased. That has also been going up since the last 4-5 years. And the last aspect, the very critical aspect, we keep talking about cashless India. We keep talking about credit cards, debit cards for the poor people. Let's talk about the Rupee cards, which was a very integral part of this entire Jan Dhan Yojana. In August 2015, until August 2015, a little more than 15 crore Rupee debit cards had been issued. By 2017, this number increased to 23 crore. August 2017, 23 crore Rupee debit cards had been issued. By August 2020, this number is closing to 30 crore. So 75% of the Jan Dhan accounts have a Rupee debit card linked to them. That's phenomenal given the cashless transactions, the cashless money transport it can increase in a way. The cashless transactions it can increase. So this is very phenomenal. This is the progress of Jan Dhan accounts. It's always been on the upward side. The government has not just got complacent and let the accounts be. They have invested in them. The schemes are connected to them. This is a very important part of the progress of the Jan Dhan accounts. The very important debate I want to have is the DBT debate. Because what was the point of Jan Dhan accounts? It was to directly transfer the benefits, or the DBTs as they were called. They started in 2013, late 2013, but they attained their full capacity with the coming of this holy trinity of Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, and mobile. And we've spoken about it a lot. The more spoken about it, the less it is. But Jan Dhan are the ones who made it possible. So just very recently, earlier this year, addressing a gathering, President Ramnath Kovind, he made this statement. He said that in the last 5 years, more than rupees 9 lakh crore had been transferred via the DBT route, via the direct benefit transfer route, rupees 9 lakh crore. And how much money did the government save? It saved rupees 1.7 lakh crore. So the government itself saved rupees 1.7 lakh crore by taking the DBT route. Now go back to the Rajiv Gandhi era, where 1 rupee left the government coffers for the poor people, and by the time it traveled through all the middlemen, all the panchayats, all the bank offices, all the other offices one can think of, merely a percentage of it, a very small percentage of that rupee, perhaps 5 paisa, 10 paisa, 15 paisa, it made it to the poor people. What has Jan Dhan Yojana done? It has made every rupee accountable that is leaving the government coffers for the people. Every single penny is accountable for. And this is the biggest achievement. It's not just about financial inclusion. It's also about making sure that every rupee, every single paisa accounted for the poor people reaches them. And this has been the biggest success of the Jan Dhan accounts. But what is the future? We've seen the success. We've celebrated the DBT. We've celebrated the numbers. But what is the future of DBT now? What is the future of Jan Dhan accounts now? Of course, one would be to get more women involved, to get more accounts, because it's not just about one family having one account. You could also have every individual having an account. The number of accounts will increase, the deposits will increase, the cashless transactions will increase, the debit cards will increase. But what next? Because we're going to move into this digitization era in the 2020s. Well, the one thing that could happen is a personalized credit system. It's an idea which is still very young. It is an idea which has still not been explored. But credit expansion to the poor people, to the rural people of India who may not look for loans worth lakhs and crores, but just a few thousands, that could be made possible with the Jan Dhan accounts. The personalization of credit for rural areas, depending on the jobs they do, depending on the businesses they want to run, that could be one very good potential area for the banks to explore when it comes to dealing with the rural bank accounts, when it comes to dealing with the rural Jan Dhan accounts. In 2030, 10 years from now, when we look back at India and we talk about the great digital transformation India has been, already there's a lot of talk about it, that how great India's digital transformation has been. But 10 years later, in 2030, when the Prime Minister may have changed, the government may have changed, the country would have changed for the better. The one story we must look back to is that of the Jan Dhan Yojana. It completes 6 years today, but it's one of the greatest achievements of the Modi government. It has been the greatest enabler for the people of India, given 450 schemes. More than 450 schemes are being enabled through this program, through the trinity of the Jan Dhan, Aadhaar, and mobile. One can only hope that the progress that was seen in the last 6 years of Jan Dhan is amplified in the coming 6, 10, 15, 20 years. Thank you.